In a flat up in Chicago, with a keyboard and some tea, lives a man with a funnel plan as clever as can be. He ditched his law degree for plugins that go zing. Now WooCommerce dances every time he pulls a string. Hey, evil genius!
Okay. Everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. I see we got a good crowd coming in. Sorry, I'm 2 minutes late. I'm always doing stuff at the last minute. That's my modus operandi. I'm okay with that. But what I was trying to do is see if I can turn on the new auto mem for our demo today for me and Claude, and you and Claude, and all of us in Claude. Today, I'm really excited because trying to get my energy balanced. But today is, I think, put it in the books, October 3rd, 2025. Today is the day that's really going to change a lot of the way that many people think about how they're going to do their business, especially through WordPress, using one of the many tools, but I think one of the most popular tools, which is Claude Desktop, for interacting with the online features. Before I get too far into it, can I get a hi from whoever's here? I see there's a bunch of you. How is the sound? How is the video? I'm just getting a reality check here. And I'm always debating whether or not I'm going to turn on that new feature that they've got in StreamYard that lets me put your things in there, your comments. Hi, John. I kind of like it when I do it manually, but they've got this feature that lets me maybe turn it on. I just feel like it takes up too much space. Okay, so let me set the stage here. And what I think I can do is actually this time I'm going to share just Claude. Even though technically we've got a website, I'm going to start by focusing on the Claude part. And I want to kind of put you guys into context as well of what am I going on about with this, because this may seem, good morning, Lloyd. This may seem a little odd. I have to share the specific Claude window, which this I can do. And I think this is actually going to work out pretty well because it is scaled appropriately. There we go. Okay, let me put this into context. As I talk, I always like, I'm going to do this. And then there we go. The last time we met on Friday, I talked about that there are 3 ways that we can interact with a large language model, an LLM, through what we're trying to do with WordPress, or through really what we're trying to do in our regular lives. I'm going to adjust myself a little bit here. I'm still believing it's summertime, and it is. So I was just out working out, and that's why I have my my Jack LaLanne outfit, or my I don't know, somebody else that we know who's in the space who does a lot better than me. The thing that we're talking about was there's 3 ways to interact with a large language model. There is on the WordPress site itself, for which we have, good morning, Eric. We have a number of different tools that I'm going to share with you again. And good morning, Adrian. Welcome. We can interact with the WordPress site directly. We can, I'm going to switch to this, by the way. We can, number 2, use a large language model in the form of a remote chat, but that's kind of like walkie-talkie talking, or we can do it through a desktop agentic tool, which is where we're focused today. That enables it to have a larger degree of control over the things that are important to what we're trying to create or to share or store or interact with on WordPress. And then number 3 is that we can do what's called autonomous. And this is really the holy grail right now. I think we're going to achieve this year, believe it or not. There's a term bantered about called AGI, which is essentially a term for what will happen when the large language models get a degree of self-awareness that they can act independently and also think for themselves, which is my allusion here to the, Hal and Dave from 2001 Space Odyssey, as I think we're really very close to that. And the difference between that and the number 3 version of things is that right now I can get my LLM agentic tools, Fernando and Claudio, to act comparable to a 13-year-old boy when you send him on an errand to the grocery store. But what we're really achieving, I think, ultimately as humanity, is we're going to be achieving the ability for the LLMs to think independently and autonomously, which opens up obviously lots of problems as well as possibilities. But I think as far as possibilities, it means that we can give them understanding of what we're trying to accomplish with the sites. Now, I want to also, before I show you this in action, I want to go back and explain why we're doing things this certain way when it comes to WordPress. I've been in WordPress since forever, 2006. And at every stage of the game, we were inventing new tools, new things for human beings, if you will, to use in order to achieve what we wanted with the websites. But the box, the website, has never really changed in terms of its viability and its value to what your outcome is. And in fact, lately, with the politics of the world, it's become more valuable. Here's why. Boring, stable, millions of users, inexpensive to operate, incredibly flexible, works with everything are the terms that you want to hear and use when you're saying, I'm going to put my business onto this. I'm going to put my private data onto this. I'm going to put my clients and customers onto this. Yes, it's super cool to use those new kid on the block terms like Node.js and React. But the fact is that PHP, HTML, CSS, little JavaScript, jQuery, that stuff has been around forever. It is rock solid like concrete and bedrock. And so when it comes to what solution we're going to offer, what I'm saying is, what if we just rethought how we work with WordPress instead of trying to use everything of the new kids on the block toys? Because we can get all of the functionality of the new kid on the block toys, but we can have the outcome be the WordPress that we know and that we love. And this means that we can now do work that was really drudge work very quickly, very effectively, very differently, but yet the outcome is exactly the same. Are you guys with me? So the goal here, where I believe my business, my interest, my passion, my solutions are going to be coming from and going to, is we stick with the box of WordPress that you can now own and control. Nobody can dox you or take you down or say they don't like your business or close you off of the platform or any of the shenanigans that happen with regular SaaS solutions. I mean, subject to whatever, don't do illegal, crazy stuff on your website, because then the hosting might take you down. But like even with Rocket, they're very flexible about uses. They're not really saying you can or can't do this. It's a private container that holds your stuff or your client stuff. And I'm saying through this interface, we can now just have conversations with an agentic tool that I've enabled to have right now 135 tools plus perpetual memory plus capabilities that are things that used to take me days, weeks, months, and now I can do really quite remarkably. Okay. If you guys are with me on that, let's do two things. Let's first of all introduce a couple of the concepts, and then I'm going to do some demo. Well, Adrian brings up a good point, and I want to address this. If I understand your meaning, Adrian is saying WordPress still has a problem with the interoperability of plugins. High five, yes. Here's the issue. Having been in the space over the last 18 years of writing and being involved with the creation of the plugins, think of the Home Depot. The Home Depot, I mean, I used to build houses for a living, has thousands of different types of digging tools and screwdriver tools and drilling tools and human tools, endless amounts of tools made by endless amounts of manufacturers to achieve what? The outcome that you want. So let's say, for example, I want to hang a shelf on the wall. There's 47 drills. There's 67 types of drill bits from different makers. There's 57,000 different wall anchors that I can put in to hold the thing. Then there's the brackets, and I could go each step of the way. Guess what? There's an incentive in the marketplace of home repair and improvement for different manufacturers to make different solutions that are not speaking with each other, compatible with each other, talking with each other towards a singular outcome. Now, as a comparative, if you go to Home Depot versus, let's say, going to IKEA, when you go to IKEA, they don't have 57,000 this or that. They have one or two. And guess what? Those are all compatible. So the problem with WordPress was and still is, and I can't blame him for this, Matt created an ecosystem where we can all invent whatever we want to invent. And being open source, that allowed everybody to save, share, sell, do whatever you wanted to do. The problem is in the later years, the ecosystem started to go, it started to be invaded by bad actors and people desperate to make a living. And so now you have a flea market problem. And as you said, Adrian, correctly, now you have a flea market where instead of there being one bracket, one screw, one drill bit, one whatever, there's 47 of them. And they're all fighting for competition and space and attention in the dashboard. And if you put one in, it bangs into the other. These are the things that led to really primarily my business the last decade at WP Launchify, where I help people stop the Frankenstein, stop the shiny ball syndrome, stop the little old lady swallowed a fly. And the reason for that was because I was able to give them a curated opinion about here's a stack of stuff. And by the way, if I pan over, here's an IKEA cabinet. You can replace the drawers and do this and that. But if everybody's using the same stuff and we do it differently, I was able to achieve immediate success over the problems most people had. Adrian's got a thought on this. Well, this is the point. The point is that under the core or under the hood is the core. The core itself is not what breaks things. What breaks things is you got 10 authors, 10 pinkies, 10 toes. They're all writing similar things that use similar functions, but they don't know what each other is doing. So what breaks things is either collision of features, collision of actions or functions, code that overlaps, or one bad actor writes some shitty code that takes down the whole house of cards because it breaks JavaScript. Okay. Here's the thing. Number one, the ecosystem of WordPress by itself is not what I'm interested in anymore, not in the way that it was traditionally done. What I'm interested in is the people who are interested in the ecosystem of WordPress, because what I have made a business and a livelihood of, and I suggest to all of you, that's where your success will come, is in the relationships with the true business owners, whether they're yourself or whether they're the actual people who are your clients. Let's say you're an implementer that need the outcome. They need the shelf attached to the wall to put the picture of their family on to remind them why they work so hard. We can get to that outcome now directly by, and here it comes, using less plugins, and I'll explain why, and using more of the core, but through an interface that is more human. The less plugins is that in order to be successful, those of us who made plugins, made themes over the years, had to develop I'm going to give you everything under the sun in one box in order to justify you giving us enough money to make it worth supporting your questions for the next year. So the plugins used to be 30, 40, 50, 80, 90. I mean, Launchflow still is 97, but many plugins like WP Fusion are rightfully priced in the $200 to $300 a year range. When you look at WooCommerce, it's a shit show because they have some plugins that do one little thing and they charge $97 to $199 a year, which is added up to thousands of dollars a year for you needed one thing in the box and they tried to sell you 99 because that's the only way you could buy it. Well, guess what? Those days are over because now if you wanted to, you could theoretically learn enough about coding and WordPress practices to code through Vibe methods with any LLM, a WordPress plugin, a functionality plugin. The problem, as Adrian rightfully pointed out, is if you do that without intent or without a framework, you end up doing exactly the same thing that he suggested, is that there's a shit ton of possibility that you buy a tool that breaks the house. Well, in this case, you're going to make a tool that breaks the house. I can help you solve that. Here's why. Because the whole concept of the Minute Launch AI system is built upon what I've had the success of with the Minute Launch startup system. That is a curated set of traditional plugins, now with the AI capabilities, that if you look at them as a stack, have been curated in such a way that you get everything you want and nothing you don't. You no longer have to go down to the flea market and buy the parts. You no longer have to deal with 99 different people who all have no incentive financially to help you with things outside the scope of the one tool they sold you. But more importantly, is it's just an evolution of the way WordPress works, because the thing that's made WordPress awesome, and it's ironic to me, it's 20 years later almost, since I came from the interacting with Ning and Mark Andreessen and Gina Bianchini, all those folks with my partner at the time, before WordPress was really a thing even, I didn't think the world was going to go the way it has, but the world has gone a way that, let's be fair, having some SaaS company own and control your business assets, clients, customers, data, as well as those of your clients, I mean, is not as easy from a safety standpoint or from a benefit standpoint as it used to be, because there's a lot of bad acting going on. When you have WordPress in a box, the software itself is impenetrable by anybody other than you. In other words, it's got 1 million or so eyes on it. So it's super secure, super flexible. It is in a box that, with the exception of the host, you have nobody else telling you yes or no, you can and can't do anything. And even with the host, like with Rocket.net, unless you're doing illegal stuff and they've got a warrant from the FBI, I really don't think they're getting in the business of worrying about what you're doing on your website. Okay. So how do I get the outcome? I need a 6-foot hole dug in the center of my yard. In the old days, I went out and bought 40 different plugins. I went out and bought 40 different tools, and I had to hire a guy who was allegedly an expert living in who knows where, some offshore location that I never met, who doesn't understand the clients that I'm dealing with in my geographic range, typically an American client, and doesn't understand my marketing and my finance. They don't understand anything about me. But I have to hire them and pay them money in the blind to go make some shit to connect my plugins that I just had to buy from a bunch of other strangers to make one thing happen. Ridiculous. Okay. Let's jump in. I'm going to add Claude back in. And let's see if I can do this efficiently, because I want him to be as big as he can be. Be all that he can be. Now, I want to explain something. I actually work on my desktop with Cursor. Cursor is Claude's distant cousin who does similar things, but guess what Cursor does differently? Cursor is a little tiny bit more advanced. He's a little more complicated. He's a little bit more of a pain in the ass, to be honest with. In a good way, yes, but in a difficult to achieve for normal people way, for sure. And that is why I'm focusing here on Claude. Now, one of the things that I decided to do is we have this as one of the 3 interfaces, but if I enable all the heavy lifting tools of WordPress through the traditional methods of the API and through the special AI plugins, he can do 99% of what I want to do. And I probably, just to be honest with you about this, I should add the website. I'm going to put another window, which is going to be a pain in the ass to share. But if I share my whole desktop, I'm thinking, you know what, maybe I'm going to do this. I'm going to rearrange this. I'm going to share this whole screen. And you guys have to tell me if this is too small, because I did this last time and I think it's better. I'll share the whole screen. So hang in there. And that way I can have side by side the browser as well as the Claude desktop. My concern being that it's just gigantic. Okay, and I'm going to get me off of the screen. So I'm going to put me down here. So I'm going to have to look down occasionally. Sorry about that. But overall, okay. I think that's ultimately going to be a better arrangement for what we're doing today. I don't need to be so big. Do you guys feel that you can see this stuff? Because before I go on, I can make Claude a little bigger. Somebody give me some high five on here if you can read this stuff. I'll make Claude bigger, like half the screen, like I was doing in my videos, and I'll make the browser bigger. Can we live with this, I think? Not bad, right? I'm looking at it on my Mac, and it's not too bad. Okay, first of all, let me do this. WPMCP. I have a WordPress site that I've got that I'm connecting WPClaude to, or what we're going to call, I think, WPClaude for today. I'm just doing one last little bit of arranging. Sorry for the housekeeping. talk amongst yourselves. Okay. In the left side, I've got Claude. I have connected him through a new plugin that I've written that's part of the Minute Launch system. Okay, good. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you for giving me the high five. That's good. All right. So this is a lightweight plugin. It's currently available only through the hosted version. And here's why. I've talked to you guys about this before. Sorry about that. The reason right now is that I want to control, like, let's say the iPhone platform. I want to control the ability for me to deliver these early versions of this. At some point, this may be a standalone solution or might be independently, but right now it comes as a standalone rocket site that even in the $30 a month version has all of the capability and even the API key built in, with the exception of Google Veo videos. And the reason for that is that I want this to be a turnkey solution for anybody, whether they're a WordPress user, a non-technical person, an implementer, an agency. I want them to just turn it on and rock and roll. And one of the things that's interesting about that, if we look over here, I made using Claude himself, I made a sample of what might be, let's say, a sales page for this, because this is how we're all going to roll. So if I go to this WPClaude.com, this should give you an example of some of the capabilities. Would be, for example, to have Claude interact with the website and do the heavy lifting. And if he did that, he can do it in a way that allows you to run a site that has all of the features that you or somebody would want on an independent domain from what your main business is or your client's business is. Why is that relevant? Well, if you think of companies like Go High Level, they've done really, really well, because what they decided was, yes, you can, of course, build websites on here, but really what you need is an attachment to your business. You need something that's theoretically able to be bolted on, because it's doing the stuff that doesn't really require you to be on that domain. Sales pages, landing pages, email marketing, AI media generation, product creation, all of these things don't really require you to be on the same domain. So let's imagine we've got here a website, and it's at WPMCP instawp.co. So this is an InstaWP site, which is, from a hosting standpoint, the bottom of the barrel in terms of power. You don't need much. All that you need to do is you turn it on, test the API connection, which means that the site is actually running. So turn on a plugin, test that it's on. Number two is you can generate a key, because these are things that you give out to your clients, give out to somebody else. So let's say we were talking about, I want to use this as a marketing tool, not a full website per se, although you could. And I just want to have Claude connect to this. You can have this connect in multiple cases by having unique keys, and then you can disable them. So I'm going to call this one office hours. And that way I have something that if I wanted to, I could deactivate. Then all you need to do is click on download MCP extension. And when you do, you can kind of see, you'll get a thing called ML Claude MCP. Now, this is the magic trick. I want you guys to understand one of the reasons that I did it this way is the technical levels of knowledge required for this are at like 0 to 1. To start going into JSON files and loading special capabilities into your desktop or laptop, Node.js, React, Python, that is typically required to get a desktop agent to do these magic tricks, that's like 7, 8, 9. And there's no way that I felt any of my clients or customers or their clients and customers are going to be able to do an 8 or a 9. So I wanted to make a solution that was, as I'm showing you now, at a 1. Now, Claude Desktop is available for free, in case you're wondering. If you go download Claude Desktop, and of course it works better when you're using one of their premium plans, which start at very inexpensive. I mean, I think it's $19 maybe. Not even $17. You can try it for free, but like $17. I am on the max plan and I get every dollar of that back to me. All right. So you get Claude, you get the desktop, you put it on Mac or PC. You install this plugin into or it'll be installed actually when you get one of the plans, either our startup plan or the regular AI plan. So you'll be able to click the download MCP. Now here's all you need to do. And this is really as simple as it is. You click on search tools in any open chat window and you go to manage connectors. And when you do, you'll notice that, by the way, I've got two connectors. I got one that's working on my file system that's unrelated to what I'm showing you. I have a whole bunch of really cool public connectors here. Google Drive, Gmail, Google Calendar, Canva, GitHub, for some reason disconnected. And then I've got this new tool, the WP-MCP. And notice it actually helps you by telling you which website it's connected to. Thank you, John, for that great suggestion, by the way. That was a John Lawler suggestion. When I look at this situation, I can see which site and which tools are enabled. And I'm going to show you how to install a new version of the DXT. But just one of the cool things is you can enable or disable any tool, so you don't have to have 135 of them running. You can also choose to allow them to be unsupervised. This is important. Imagine you've got a sports car and a liquor full of a cabinet full of bourbon. And you got a 13-year-old and his friends around. This is kind of like your levels of trust. You can turn on and off various tools or allow them to be on, but you have to always ask permission. No, you cannot have a shot of bourbon with your friends. Okay. So you can see if we scroll through these are going to be further improved and alphabetized, but right now they're pretty self-explanatory. And as I'll show you, there is built into the documentation all of the information that you really need about what to do. It's just right now it's very mechanical, right? Like here's how to do things for users, how to do things for files, plugins, themes. These are all the things that we can now do through this connection, which is really quite awesome. Some of these look like they're missing some placeholders, but again, this is always a work in progress. And I'm going to demonstrate this live. So if you follow me so far, we've got the documentation, we've got the ability to enable, disable different tools. Now, if I wanted to add this from scratch, all I do is I click the developer tab down here in the bottom left. And then actually, I take it back. That's not what I want to do. I want to go to the extensions tab. And here I will either drag the new file on, which you can literally take the downloaded file. If I wanted to, I can open up my file manager here. This is going to be really tiny for you guys to see, but let's see. Hold on. If I go to my downloads folder, you'll see I've got this MCP. All I need to do is just drag that over. That would be sufficient. Or I can do the advanced settings and then click this big white button that says install extension. And then I just simply choose the extension. Okay. Now, when you do, it'll make a nice ding noise. Ding. And then you're ready to go. And at any time when you go back to your chat window, let's do a new chat, you can click the search tools and you will see whether it's enabled. You will see the WP-MCP. I have 135 of 136 tools enabled. For some reason, I turned off the upload media. You can always manage from here or search from here, products, right? I can do media. All right. The important thing is you can also use this sales page that's at WPClaude. This is not a live sales page, but I want to give it to you guys. This is a way for me to start to bring this to market. This particular solution to me has benefit inside of the larger system of tools, but really, as I mentioned, it to me sounds like something that for the WordPress audience is going to be much easier to understand when I put it in the WP language. So WPClaude is a domain I've got, and I'm not using that to change Minute Launch AI, but this one capability by itself, as you'll see, is pretty remarkable. And also, if you scroll through here, it will help you understand in a little more detail some of the features. By the way, guess how I created this page? I created this page simply by telling Claude to design the page and post the page. And he can edit the page using some of the tools. Okay. So there's enough information for today to get you going. And by the way, if you're watching this and as you watch today, there is no free trial per se on this because that's just a hypothetical, but there is the ability to get the minute launch stuff. I just want to put in this real quick little temporary interruption. If you go to minute launch, you'll notice I stripped this bad boy down because we're preparing this now finally for everything I've been promising with the voting and with whatever. If you want to just get this deal on the minute launch itself, the AI itself, just click join the club and that will instantly send you to get the deal, $250 for the whole year, fully hosted. That's a crazy deal because what I think is going to happen is that based upon the response thus far, we're going to probably be blowing this out of the water with regard to the larger solution that it achieves. In other words, when we include all the other tools and the marketing automation and all the other things, I think it'll be more comparable to like what they're doing at Go High Level, where you probably have at least a $97 a month, $970 a year, but you're probably going to have more of a hands-on expertise kind of an arrangement. I have many people who are in the business of say, look, it's great you got the tools, but I need the tools and I need somebody who's just going to get shit done for me. And what I want you to understand is that is the whole point I'm passing along to you if you're an implementer, is it's not just the tools here for you, it's the tools here for you that allow you to do stuff for your clients, and then your clients can get on board. And whether it be the $97 a month version or whether it be the $250 a year, you end up with a situation where you can charge your clients for things that would have been really, really difficult or impossible because you don't have to go to Home Depot and buy 100 shovels anymore or drills. So whichever way of these two methods come across your plate, they're designed to have, first of all, a referral fee for you as an affiliate. So on the startup of $250, there's nothing. That is just the raw cost. The retail price of that is $300 a year, which means $50 a year to you. The startup does have the affiliate built in. That's $20 a month or $200 a year. So you do have that already built in. And that's why I encourage you to think of this, if you're an implementer, as something that will change the way you work as well. All right. Without further ado, let's talk to Claude. I am using another tool here that is called Whisper Type. There are about a dozen of these now that are incredible. I'm using Whisper Typing. There's Whisper Type for Mac. These allow me to do this talking thing that just really changes the whole game. Okay, so let's first of all ask him. Oh, one last thing. Notice, which is really cool, Anthropic, the company behind this whole thing. I'm going to answer this question. Great question, by the way, Adrian. The company behind this whole thing has come up with the new models. They're all racing to give new models. So this now has Opus 4.1, which has been around for a while. He's expensive and a little slow, but does a good job coding. Sonnet 4.5 is really amazing. It's a good mix of Opus and Sonnet. Sonnet 4 is still available if you wanted to switch to it, but I would recommend Sonnet 4.5. Adrian has a question. This is a great one. Does it allow you to develop a new site? I got to see. Via vibe coding like Exagio does? Yes, but not in the way that they do it. And here's why. Imagine, Adrian, I have the same conversation about the Home Depot, but I switched to strawberry ice cream. I want to make strawberry ice cream. If I use one of these vibe coding platforms that has a random array of tools, a random array of outcomes, a random array of things under the hood, when I create something with that tool, I have one flavor of ice cream that I accidentally made, and I can A, never reproduce it, B, never really fix it or edit it, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. C, I have no idea where I'm going to run this. D, it doesn't work retroactively with any of the other stuff that I've been building for the last 18 years or my clients have. E, there's no ecosystem of people interested in this. Well, guess what? Of all those things, A through E, those are a different answer when we take the Home Depot model using the Minute Launch AI and specifically here with WPClaude. Why? Because A, I have created a methodology, a process with the tools that allow us to do a vibe coding experience, but Claude can automatically generate the single file plugins that go inside of the reliable box that you own and control that allow you and your clients to not have to buy a plugin that has 99 different things in it anymore. But because it's written with the processes, the standards, the coding, operational kind of methodologies of WordPress, the thing that it writes is understood by everybody and anybody who's ever worked in WordPress. And that means that you can create something once, keep fixing it, improving it, editing it, building it into some other system, use it with the stuff that we've got. But you can also sell to other people the things that you made. So if you think about it, all of those negative things that come from vibe coding are immediately solved and fixed, because all we're doing here at the end of the day is we've got a methodology, a system, and tools that I put in place that allow us to change the way we create the outcome in WordPress, but that when we do have the outcome in WordPress made by this tool or directly inside of the WordPress site with the other type of tools, it looks and feels and acts exactly like the things we've been working with forever, which is amazing. Not the least of which the distribution model of just being able to write these zip files and have them immediately go. Let's do some real live examples of this, because if you were to go here at WPClaude and you look at some of the tools, one of the tools is that it can basically manage all the files and it can create the things that you need, right? So in other words, we can not only upload files, but we can actually do web page design. We can actually customize themes. We can customize vibe coded stuff. Let's do a real practical example though. Okay. So I've got the WordPress website here. I want you to look, and we got a whole bunch of crap in here. Let's take a couple of these things off, just because that way it will be easier for me to demonstrate. And by the way, hold on. Let's let Claude help us out. First of all, he has extensive memories. Now, I want to explain, this is a secondary conversation, but he has a new tool called Auto Memory, which is something that I'm doing with, this is Jack Arturo's creation. Something that I'm doing with Jack and another fella, where it extends his memory into human-like capacity. So if you were to, for example, take a 13-year-old kid and you raised him or her, when they become an adult, you can't believe they're the same person. That's kind of the experience of working with AutoMem. For right now, to keep this simple, I'm not using the AutoMem. I'm just using the WPClaude. But he has at least 13-year-old memories. He has memories of conversations and chats that were inside of his own environment. With AutoMem, he has extensive memories beyond that. Let's say hello, first of all. Good morning, Claudio. It's Spence. ¿Cómo estás? Now, he knows enough from his standard memory to know that we have a little interaction, a little bilingual stuff. My name is Salvador or Spencer and so forth. But let's ask him about the tools. I'm doing a live webinar right now, so I'm hoping you're up for it. I want to demonstrate some of your capabilities to the folks. Can you help me understand, do you have the WP tools, the Claude tools installed? Do you see them? I'm just asking him questions like I was talking to my kid, just to make sure. I can see that he's got them, but I want him to be on board. And by the way, is this big enough? I'm going to make it a little bigger there. And I'll do WordPress a little bigger too. Okay. He's already gone overboard and explained to me all the stuff he can do. Hey, let's do some basic site stuff. I've got a bunch of plugins that I want to delete. Can you list out the plugins that you see in my site for me to make sure we're on the same page? You don't need to do this stuff, but it's fun to do this because as part of my testing, I want to have like a human interaction almost. Tell me what you see. This is like a Rorschach test. Okay. So he's listing them out. He can see what's active, by the way, and he sees what's inactive. And let's ask him to delete some crap. Okay, that's awesome. Perfect. That's what I see too. Let's do this. Delete the Akismet and the Contact Form 7 plugins and delete the Hello Dolly. Now notice how fast it is for me to talk to him. Imagine you hired a contractor in the States or elsewhere, and you had to do emails and you had to do Zoom calls and whatever. I mean, one way or the other, you're still going to talk to people. But the point is, it's easier to learn how to say things to them or use tools that generate the things to say to them than it is to either endlessly type or drag the screen around. Have you guys tried to delete a plugin lately? It takes at least 60 seconds to 2 minutes per plugin to delete. Hold on 1 second. I'm getting a call. I'm being interrupted. Okay, so notice, let's say he's got 10 plugins. Let's send the message again. For some reason, when I did that, it was interrupted. I think because my phone system's connected to my computer. Okay, so I've given him a clear instruction. And he's going to delete these 3 plugins. And I'm not 100% sure if we're having some other disconnect here. It seems like he's leaving my conversation in the bottom chat, which is okay. This by itself is a mundane task, but some of the things that happen when I'm doing this, and let's hope I'm having not one of my Spencer mornings, when he's interacting, typically what will happen is he'll just go bloop, and it's done. And in that particular case, I'm going to do this. It seems like he was having one difficulty. I'm going to switch over to a model that is less busy called Sonnet. And the reason I'm going to do that is I think that something with Sonnet 4.5 is getting a lot of action. It was just released this week. And it seems like that was a connection to Sonnet 4.5 problem. Let's try this here. Let's paste the instruction again. Let's see if this is like a new conversation. Let's see if I can get success with this. I want everybody to understand that we are still in the earliest of days, earliest of days. And not only with regard to the LLM, but also with regard to what I'm building here. Because a lot of the stuff that I'm building here is like, this is the first try. This is the first thing that I've shown you. So let's see, he has a tool and he seems to be having some issue with the connection. So let's see if he's having a trouble with that. It's not the way I wanted to start, but I've done this many times before. And he's going to try to figure out what his problem is connecting. Yesterday, when I ran this demo, he did fine. I have no doubt that it'll be fine. But I was futzing around with his config file before the show. So he did achieve it. He didn't achieve it the way that I thought he was going to achieve it. I was hoping for, hey man, it's done. But I don't really care, do I? Because I raised 3 boys and my 25-year-old now calls me and he talks like a mature adult. There were times when I thought he was 6 when he was 18. And so this is how it goes. I think we all have to sort of condition ourselves that, look, I got the outcome. I'm using the tool. I don't know what his problem was, but I can actually ask him, hey, I'm just curious, what was the problem with using the WPMCP tool to do that? Is there something wrong with that original tool, or did you just misunderstand what to do? Tell me. So he can actually self-diagnose. Now, I want you to also conceive of the idea. Imagine that when you're running your business or you're running the business for a client, that as you go, he has advanced memory and understands the way you like things and do things and problems with things. When he solves a problem, he can now recall that solution and apply it before the next time of doing it. So it's not just like a robot going, bang your head against the wall, bang your head against the wall. He says that the tool should have worked, but WordPress kind of gave him a hard time. So he used the bypass system, which was the file system approach, which is fine. He can do it either way. Okay. So notice he's got a few plugins here. Let's show another one, which is simple local avatars. Let's say, can you deactivate the simple local avatars plugin for me? Let's see, just these are very basic operations, but if you've ever tried to, again, manage plugins, install plugins, delete plugins, this is one of the things that's a super drag if you've got a lot of clients. Well, guess what? Instead of having you use a static tool, even as awesome as they are, as the WordPress host or main WP, you can have an intelligent operator. You could have somebody like your Claudio. So there you go. It deactivated it. Manage these things. Now let's go for broke here. Adrian really, I mean, this is dangerous for me, but I don't care. I'm feeling cocky and it's already at 10:47. Let's see if his file operations are working. Okay, listen, Claudio, I don't want you to embarrass me too much, but I had Adrian here asked a question. Can we vibe code a WordPress single file plugin live on the air without a net? Let's make a plugin that says, hey, Adrian, it's easy for me, Claude, to write a plugin, and have that show up on the screen automatically without the need of shortcode, and make it look professional, but also grab attention. I'm going to ask him, do you think you can do that with the tools that I've given you in the WPMCP? I'm going to ask him if he feels cocky. I think he does. Okay. Adrian, Claudio is on stage for you. He's going to write a plugin, vibe coded style. Now, here's the difference. Here's the benefit. A, he's writing it for WordPress, which means that he doesn't have to think about all the other infrastructure, because we already know what the infrastructure is of WordPress. And I've even built into specialized tools for certain plugins that we use, which would be, for example, WooCommerce or Fluent CRM or Fluent Campaign or Fluent Community or WP Fusion or Launchflows. All of those things can have special capabilities built in that he's able to access so that I don't have to. And then number two, when he vibe codes it, if it sucks, we can change it and he can keep track of all the changes and know why it sucked so that he gets better. And then when it's done, if you want to sell it, save it, share it, do whatever you want with it, we have an operating system onto which this will operate. By the way, those of you who have first time here, if we want to see like what's the potential outcome of this, one of the things in the Minute Launch operating system is that we've got this amazing mobile compatible interface that if you want to use it, and I encourage you to do so, gives you an iPhone or iPad-like experience, an Android, where we can put all of the apps that we want to, whether they're custom or otherwise, into a drag and drop type of experience and interface that we customize both for our brand and our customer's brand. This is one of the key elements. If you can have an intelligent operator, and you can have, as I can show you here, you can have an inline intelligent operator on the site where, again, you can do these very same things inline on Minute Launch, or you can do it through an agentic desktop tool like Claude, or you can even do things like we can create these amazing applications that rival what you'd find in the iPhone environment instantly. Like here's one for my client Xander Holt that we created that allows the users to record how they did the evening before. These are the kind of things that really leverage the capability of WordPress in a way that doesn't have any of the problems, any of the same, oh my God, I bought a bunch of plugins from Awesomotive and now my entire site's a mess and Syed won't let me out. Or, oh my God, I got to send my client into that dashboard where there's 1,000 things across the top of the screen. Instead, we can just have an agentic tool or an interface that is streamlined as easily as an iPhone, an iPad, an Android phone that people could just do work with and make fun outcomes. Not the least of which, by the way, is I can do crazy cool shit. I've said this before, but I can use, for example, the media library from the front end, and using the streamlined interface or not, I can achieve outcomes like those crazy nano banana photos. You'll notice, guess what I used for today's webinar? I used the tool itself to generate from my own picture in my own media library today's image that was then merged together in Canva, right? Here's a picture of me working hard on a chain gang in the 1920s. Here's, I don't know, the corporate Spence photo of a younger me. Here's me at that presentation I think you guys saw me at, right? Where I was addressing 10,000 people inside what looks like either Ford's Theater or maybe the Chicago Theater in Chicago. The bottom line is these tools all exist inside of the system, ready to go. I don't know if you guys caught my album, right? Back the Neil Diamond era. So what we've got is a system now where Claude is claiming he's done the hard work. He's saying he's created and live coded a WordPress plugin, no shortcuts needed. Let's refresh and see what he's done. He's got a plugin installed, Adrian, called Claude Says Hello, Adrian. Claude's plugin is active and displays on the front end. Check your website to see the live message for Adrian. Okay, let's do that. Let's visit. He also put an admin notice in there for you. And here's the message on the top of the screen. Hey, Adrian, it's easy for me, Claude, to write a WordPress plugin and have it show up automatically without any shortcodes. Let's go farther, shall we? Let's take this URL from a remote address, and I'm going to say to him, Claudio, you have outdone yourself and made me look good in front of all these folks. I appreciate you greatly. Let's do the next step. Take your plugin and let's edit it for Adrian and the rest of the folks. I have an image URL here that I know you can grab and use. I want you to grab that and either inline or put it in your media library. Make a plugin that features this new album I've released. My name is Spencer Diamond, and this is a new album. I want you to create a promotional piece for this that also displays on the website to Adrian and everybody else to highlight how you can edit your plugins and your code just by talking to you. Okay, and so for this, I want to give him just the link to a publicly available image, and he's going to do the rest. And if you follow what I'm saying here, it is infinitely easier for me, either directly from my experience, building a relationship with this entity, or through using an intermediary tool like the code template generator or the video prompt generator or the image prompt generator. I can have tools that Spence or you build into the system that give him better prompts on how to achieve outcomes. And if you imagine what I'm saying, this is no different than user manuals from the old days. Like when you joined a company, if you ever worked for a company, they have this ridiculous thing. Here's our systems, our processes, our people, our whatever. Well, imagine you've got an intelligent assistant either on the site with the chat version or at the desktop, and they have access to all this capability. We want to give them tools that let them understand, here's how we do things. And in the future, much, much easier. Okay, he's really cocky, but I'm loving this. He says he did it. So let's first of all see what he did. If he changed the name of the plugin, he changed the name of the plugin to Spencer Diamond Album Promo. Hopefully you can see that. I don't know what it's going to do, but I'm excited. He's got even this notice in the dashboard, which, by the way, I didn't ask for it, but I'm really pleasantly surprised he understood that he needs to make it that easy. And there he's got, and now this is crazy because he even thought of it. He understood that it was an album and I'm trying to promote it. So I could technically put a listen now. Now, one of the things that's really fun is that this allows us to do things that are not just for business. This WordPress box is just as much fun as it is for business. It could be just as much for doing things like, I want to take a picture of my MRI and I want to diagnose something and I want to put it in a private way so my doctor or somebody can know about it. Or I could take a picture of my girlfriend or my family and make a compilation, like fun thing. You could do fun stuff. You could do work stuff. But like when it comes to things even like music and audio, there's a service called Songer. And with the Songer, I have an API that I can use with this, but I can use this to generate. And by the way, so could Claude. But I can ask him if he can generate a song like Songer. So let's see if he can do this. This is not one of his tools, by the way. Hey, I know this isn't one of your tools, but I'm curious for that new album. Can you use your capabilities, or if necessary, tell me if you can use the output from something like songer.co to generate a quick MP3 file and actually associate it with that link? My thought was that now with your cool thing, which by the way, you did awesome on, I can actually have something that plays. Let's see what he says. Now, I've been very, very busy, and I love this, making so many cool things. All right, so he can't generate it, but we can do something like this, right? So, for example, if I wanted to use Songer or another tool or had an MP3, generate a song that sounds a lot like Neil Diamond's Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon. Make it a really short 8-second clip, something in the style of Neil Diamond. These are the ways that we're going to interact in the, let's do pop, acoustic, soulful rock. These are the ways that we're going to interact in the future. If you think about it, nobody is going to be using the shovel. We're all going to be using tools that allow us to essentially generate the content that we need. And the difference between success and failure is going to be how easily can you do it? How successfully can you teach your intelligent agent? How well you can blend them together? And my thought is, bringing this all together, why aren't we just delivering all this stuff into the WordPress space? We've already got the black box. We've had 20-year history of it. We don't need to throw that away. We can extend this into a crazy new world because that box is private. It's owned and controlled. Nobody can take it away. This is my manifest destiny. Because if you look at the evil genius videos of me from 20 years ago, 18 to be exact, I was doing the same thing on the Ning platform, but then they took it all away. And it was the lesson to be learned of how we can do this now without them taking it all away. Make a short song that sounds like Neil Diamond's Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon, and in the style and genre of Neil Diamond with acoustic guitar, very soulful, male singer. Okay, so let's do, I signed up for free. It was so expensive to do. And this is going to make the lyrics in the song, it might take a minute. We'll come back to this. But the idea, which I think is super cool, is like audio, video, image, whatever. Now, by the way, one of the tools that's inside of this package is video creation, right? So I'm doing here the media library, but if I was to go on the back end, because that's just where I prefer to use this at the moment, I'm going to use, for example, the same kind of a prompt. I could make a short clip of something, and I could do that with the Flow video. And I'm going to get back to Claudio because that's the purpose of this today. But like Claudio is going to be able to use the prompt generation capabilities and the video generation capabilities of the Minute Launch system. So Claudio, in addition to his 135 other mechanical set tools, will be able to do the stuff like I just asked him to do. Generate a song. He can already generate a video. He can already generate an image. So I can use the prompt generator tool, or I can just do something simple. Take this reference image and generate a 30-second clip or a short, sorry, that's a bad prompt. Hold on. Generate a clip with this reference image showing this guy smiling and laughing and singing and turning around to the girl. Now, what I typically will do with this kind of thing is you can use the video prompt along with the template generator to make a much better version of this. And I was actually goofing around before this, so we don't actually have to waste a lot of time here. And what I was able to do with this was to generate a couple clips. They were very provocative. One of them was really good. One of them was really bad. But this is the one that I call the eat it. Right? And like that would make the trailer. And then there were a couple other ones that were just kind of weird. The point of the story is this media can be saved and stored and shared inside of the media library, and Claude can generate it, manage it, upload it, do these various things. The point is that with that kind of situation, with it being in your media library, you or your clients also have access to all of these crazy capabilities without having to set them up, without having to do APIs. And now what I'm doing is I'm putting this in here. I'm going to call this Neil Diamond because I want to demonstrate. We're waiting for the song, but I'm going to put this short clip in here. Let me upload that. And when I do, I can give that to Claude, right? He can use that as part of our plugin that he vibe coded. Normally, by the way, I wouldn't recommend uploading MP4s, but these are very short clips. So I'm going to say, okay, Claudia, listen, I'm waiting for an MP3 song, but I've got the promo video for the MTV style TV commercials. Can you grab this URL of this video and embed that video in the meantime into your plugin? And then after that, we'll put the song in. So leave the song play button for now, but just embed the video below the album cover. And And I'm going to give him this URL, which again, it's easier for me to give it to him rather than asking him to find it, but he could find it if I just told him to search the media library. And let's see what he comes up with. So he's going to update that. In the meantime, let's see what happens here. All right, we've got the new song, which is awesome. And I think he can share it. I mean, because it's an embeddable. Oh, it can even be exported, which would be awesome. Let's see. Doesn't sound like Neil, but not the point. None of these sound like him, but I don't care. What I'm going to do is let's see if I can I have to give the money to export it. So let's see if we can share it another way. I'm not sure if he can do that, but maybe he can. Copy link. Otherwise, I'd have to like maybe just do I don't want to do anything copyright infringement. I might have to either buy it or download it, but that's not my point. Let's see also. That's awesome. By the way, I'm going to look at what you did, but can you use the share link from Songer to actually embed that? Maybe just have it open it up in Songer. That would be fine. So I'm going to say, add this to the listen now button. So we should have the image, the listen now button, and the video. Okay, so he's modified that. Let's see what he did so far. He's got the video embedded, which is freaking me out. Crazy. And now he's going to put the song link in, but I'm going to take this to the one last level before we're done today, because he's got special capabilities like I've talked about with WooCommerce. Okay. We don't need to dick around in that crazy, messy WooCommerce area. Okay. We don't. So I'm going to show you something that is just going to change the way you think about WordPress in general. One of the concepts is in the core of WordPress, WooCommerce is a custom post type. Each product has a unique ID. We can do anything we want with those without having to go through the current interface. We can make a product instantly, a subscription instantly, a bundle instantly. We can offer the bundle instantly here. So first of all, let's see what he did. By the way, hopefully Adrian's question, I've been focused on that. Adrian says, I can't read. My earlier question was, can this generate a whole site via vibe coding? Yes. Yes, but what I'm going to explain to you, and I will show you, is what does a whole site mean? Okay, so a whole site means which plugins, which theme, what style, what content, what products, what marketing. Because he can keep memories, I can give him a list of things to do to change the theme, turn it on, set it up, install it, put in the content, make the products, do all of this stuff, not just a single plugin. The difference between a vibe coded site, like, I don't know what that site is, Viaggio or something you said, is Zaggio. What do you do with Zaggio when you're done? I don't know. I'm sure it's awesome if you just want a single page site or you want something else, but how are you going to make that interact with all your other WordPress ecosystem stuff or all the other tools or all of the things that you've come to know how to do? Good luck. I mean, I'm not saying that those tools don't do cool stuff. There's Lovable and Replit and Google. I mean, everybody has a tool to vibe code. It's like everybody has a drill and a screw gun and a screwdriver and a shelf material at Home Depot. Which one are you going to use? I'm not saying you can't or shouldn't. I'm using two services here. But what I'm thinking is, why don't we just use the thing that we already have and we know and start removing all of the impediments by putting the cool stuff in place? Because then for pennies a month, we can generate anything we want for anybody and know exactly what we got. And by the way, it does it in many ways better than another vibe code platform, because see, these vibe code platforms don't have any real world testing yet of their outcomes. WordPress does. So WordPress has standards on coding and testing that are already in existence for the LLMs to use to know and understand exactly what they're building and why. Things like sanitizing input boxes, things like backend security, API keys, application passwords. Good luck when you start from scratch with another platform. It's like literally opening up your own Home Depot versus you got something that we already know what to do. We just are trying to do it easier, faster. So it's a great question, Adrian. I love that. And yes, I will show you before I'm done something that's very similar to what you're asking about, but that's not the point. The point is that I'm just showing you snippets here and there of what it can do. And then if we asked it to do it all together, of course it could. And when it has its memory, we can build a plugin that is like a checklist for it to follow or its buddies to follow. Okay. I love the question. Okay. So now we've got this. We got the video. We've got the songer. Let's see. It should take us to songer. Here's the lyrics. I mean, if I paid the money, I'm not doing it today. I could get the song and listen to it and so forth. But I'm going to give you guys, by the way, you can go here and I should have done this before. You can go and see what I'm doing live. There's the URL of what I'm working on. Okay, let's do the other thing before we do the full site idea. Okay. I was just asked a great question by Adrian in the audience about whether this will build a full site. And I think we're going to get there. But before that, let's impress the folks with the product creation capabilities. I want you to make a product about this new album so that below the listen now, you can say, get it now. And I want you to use the same imagery that we gave you so that it's consistent in the product, and price this based upon what an album might sell for in 2025. I have no idea. Okay, so giving him enough vague instructions to keep it real, but at the same time letting you understand, if I was really specific, as I could be, I can have him generate brand new AI images. I can have him generate, for example, images like this is what I'm thinking of. I would have like pictures that I was goofing around with of these are my album promotion cover shots, right? And I'd give him this. I'll be like, by the way, this is another image from the jacket cover if you want to add it in some clever way. Okay. So I'm just giving him a little more meat on the bone. And in doing so, by the way, if you're curious about it, the code itself can always be accessed because obviously we have the plugin file editor, but we can also use any other number of tools that he can access. And in doing so, we can actually see what it is that he created, right? So in this particular case, this diamond cover, the code is all here. One of the plugins that's included is a file manager plugin. This is something that allows us to get the outcome that we want, but also see the plugins that were created and also the code that was created. And I feel like that's actually probably going to be an answer for you, Adrian, about how you can build a site. In the old days, we used to put a lot of stuff into one box. Now we can have a sort of box that holds all the details about what was created and still comply with essentially what WordPress requires. Okay. So what he did is, and I'm going to give him one other thing too. He actually made the box cover and some other things along with the product. Let's see, first of all, here. He created a digital album for $9.99. Get it now. Made the product. Did all. I love this so much. I'm gonna buy the company. He didn't do any custom page layout, which is okay. He just stuck with the normal WooCommerce for right now because I didn't tell him. But he came up with all the copywriting. He did the add to cart, everything else, so that if I wanted to buy it, I quite literally could go buy it right now. And I, by the way, have not set up anything on this WordPress website, right? There's the Spencer Diamond album ready to buy. Now, I'm going to show you something that's really cool because I was doing this yesterday. One of the things about WordPress plugins is that they require you as a person authoring them to make 800 trillion things in one box in order to make enough money to make it worth staying in business, right? And that's kind of a drag. We don't need to do that now with this vibe coding type solution because I can tell him, besides the cool stuff about the jacket cover, to make a sales widget. Okay. I'm going to tell him to make a custom bundle creator about Spencer Diamond. Okay. That is Awesome. I'm going to check that out. While I'm checking that out, I would like you to also do something for selling all the accessories. So I have these following products. I've got a live show coming up on November 3rd. It's going to be $100 at the Chicago Theater to see Spencer Diamond live. Number 2, I've got a wall poster that I can hang up next to my Farrah Fawcett poster if I want. That's $15. I have got a baseball hat. I would like you to make those 3 products. And if you want, you can use the images that we've got or use some other pixels, but just make those 3 extra products. I want you to create a dynamic bundle selector that somebody could choose from any of the 4 products and get all of them and have them sent directly to the checkout cart, and give that to me in a way that is very dynamic like you've been doing. Now, what I just asked them to do was to essentially say, look, make up 4 products, set up the pricing, set up a bundle, make a widget that would have taken me, Spencer, a whole freaking day of coding or buying 12 special plugins to figure it out, right? Whereas with this, I don't have that problem, right? And he mentioned something about, let's see what he talked about. I just created something with a jacket, a 3D flip effect. Where is the album art? I don't know where he put the album art thing. So let's see. Oh, maybe it's here. Nope, that's the link to the thing. I'm not sure. Oh, he just put this on the front. So notice he did this cool like hover effect. Kind of neat. And then let's see at the end, he's creating the extra products without me doing anything. One of the things that's really useful for me here is to suggest that when you create the content in your media library, you can sell, save, share, manage it using the tools that I had been showing in previous examples. And with or without the help of your inline chat or WPClaude, it makes it way, way more powerful to use. So for example, you'll notice here's my media library. And even though it's a little squishy, maybe I'm going to make this bigger. I can use a tool like Firebird or something else to organize my content. So I could take, for example, all the images I iterated on of myself or a product. So here's like a client's product. And I had it make all these iterations. Here's a girl with a product. Here's the different box shots. I can have those all in a folder. And that way it's much, much easier for Claudio or your version of it to access whatever you need, like as a client project. And these are tools that, by the way, he can do himself, but I like using some of the legacy tools. So it's kind of a mix of the old and the new, right? Honey product. And all I need to do here is, again, whether he did it or I did it, I can multi-select. I'm just going to drag and drop. But, you know, I can drag all of these things. I'm going to go into a different mode. I'm going to go into list view so I can use the checkbox and just take those honey products and just put them all in one spot. And that way, if I was working on this in the future, I really have access to a much better human level of organization, right? So now I've got 16 products, and I can give him, for example, instead of the whole library, I could give him just the honey product library and say, I'm making a product. Here's all the stuff. Go do it. Okay. All right. Let's see what he did. And then I'm going to come around the corner with a couple other things to kind of demonstrate further. And then we can call this a good webinar. Good office hours. Okay. He's created dynamic bundle selector. Let's see if he put that in line or what. So far, I haven't really asked for any instructions. Oh, look what he did. They both come out. I can get the album live at the Chicago Theater and the Just For You baseball hat. 3 items for $134. And by the way, I can even do coupons. Like, that is freaking awesome. I want you to do a couple things though. I like that you use the red and so forth. Could you also jazz this up a little bit by making some kind of a timer that says get it now and save 25% to demonstrate how you can discount things dynamically without having to write any special plugins or use third-party plugins. So in other words, one of the things that's often done as a marketer is you got a time-limited offer for urgency. You could also have scarcity and so forth. Like, that's complicated to do with plugins and requires you to buy 15 plugins at $150 a piece. Not now. because this plugin that he's creating is available for me now to have as a template that I can use for future customers. And that means that I don't have to reinvent this idea. I can just say to him, save this for future reference, and he can. I can even turn it into what we call an artifact, which is something that he can use for, like, go to the artifact and use that as a tool to make more of the same. Okay, so let's see what he pulls off. In the meantime, what I love about this is that it really, I don't think I spent 2 seconds doing anything on the back end other than showing you what plugins were there and so forth, right? Which is kind of the whole point. The point is to keep people out of the back end, whether they're using the systems like this, where we put it all in the front end using the Minute Launch interface, which, by the way, while I'm showing you, you can customize for, again, your business or your client's business. So it's white labeled. You can interact with all the back end or the front end here, or create a new app, just as simple as, you know, putting in a URL. So I'm going to do WPClaude, right? And I can put in the URL or have him do it for me. And in this case, we could set a featured image, right? What will we do? Well, probably what we'll do is add that featured image we just talked about, which is like the album cover, just for fun. Okay. And when I do this, this means that I've instantly got something that I can show to the front end. This question is asked to me so often: Spence, I need to do an application in the iPhone store for Body Boss. And I'm like, no, you really don't. Because A, when you do that, you have to have Apple approve all the changes. B, you've already got a dynamic website capability that's HTML5. And C, now that we've got all these tools built in, look what I was able to do. Like, if you want to promote your app, good, here's your app. It's an app on what looks exactly like the iPhone store, and it will very nicely embed whatever it is you want to embed, whether it's a third-party website or it's a product or service. Doesn't make a difference. Okay. This is capable of doing all of those things as simply as I just did, right? I just embedded a third-party website into the thing. No problems, no iframing, no issues. It gives me the control, or somebody the control, to drag it around. So you can take your functions and features that are otherwise really difficult, and you can break them out into desktop application looking things, whether they're functional or just navigational. As simple as this. All right, so he's got the flash features. Let's see what he did. Let's go here, actually. Flash sale ends in 15 minutes. 25% off. Let's see what he did. Look, notice the sale price, $9.99, $7.49. I'm going to get this bundle, and then ta-da, when I add this to the cart, I should see automatically in the cart exactly what I need to see. One of the things I would tell him is probably to make the sale thing dismissible when I'm in the cart automatically. So I would say, like, one thing I would do is get rid of the sale thing more easily. I can't see the dismiss button in the way I'm viewing it because the admin bar is in the way, but make those things only show on the front end. Don't have them show on the cart page. Okay, but the point is, aside from not being able to see that little doodad to dismiss it, it put those items into the cart, right? And that's the point. The point is, I just had him create all the products. I had him create the dynamic sales tools. I had him do all the copywriting. I had him manipulate the images. I had him put it so that I've got a complex sales arrangement tool that delivers right to the checkout. And guess what? I didn't do any of. I didn't do anything with regard to setting up WooCommerce. I didn't do anything with writing code or copy. And who cares? Because now I could say also, now what I want you to do is something awesome. Even though technically speaking, I don't have you set up for it because you don't have the Spence style plugin. I want you to make a landing and sales page that's static, that can act as my homepage to sell this album. Do it in the same style you've been doing. Make it HTML5 and CSS so that when we put it in place, it will look awesome. Now, I think you can do it yourself, but the problem is, we have the Cadence theme and I don't have Spence style. So can you actually put that in place as code inside of the post editor so that it will display natively, even though it's HTML5? Now, what I asked him about was a lot of words, but what I was saying is there's a plugin that I've written that works with the Minute Launch system that's called Spence Style. It provides special boxes for the HTML and CSS so that Claude Desktop can know where to put his stuff, but you can still work with the native block builder stuff if you have it, right? So that it's backwards compatible. I've kind of asked him to see if he can go around that right now because he can write, and see whether or not he can figure that out. Okay, we're coming around the corner. This is really going much longer than I thought, but most of you guys are still here. So I will wrap this up by saying, if you are thinking of what we're going to do, hopefully I've given you an example that we're shifting from, oh my God, I have to spend the next 5 years learning how to manipulate all the different plugins written by different people with different interfaces, different controls, to I just need to know how to have one relationship with one trusted partner who can understand me and memorize the way I like it and do stuff for me or my clients. And since this partner now has access to crazy tools, including the ability to write plugins or themes or write code or manipulate the WordPress website, make products, do research, this is going to take me 1,000,000 miles faster than if I tried to do this manually or if I tried to learn it myself. And I'm speaking with personal experience because I've been in the WordPress space for the 18 years and developing and doing website stuff for probably 20 something years. And this is like mind blown. When you combine that with the cool, fun things you can do and the organizational tools of having an iPhone-like interface with media generation capabilities, audio generation, the ability to instantly create sales bundles and products connected to your CRM, understand the customers and so forth, it changes the paradigm. We are no longer talking about like Spence is going to get a shovel or hire a bunch of people to get a shovel. But the people who used to have the shovel, including me, just have to learn this is just another tool. We're extending our power by using a different type of a tool. We're not giving up on the client relationships. On the contrary, we're doing more than ever before. Okay. So he's fixed the visibility controls, bundle selector, and I'm going to give him this last task. By doing this, I can now deliver high-end services instantly. He crashed the site, I think. Let's see. He crashed the site. So let's tell him. I think you were naughty and went a little too far. You may have crashed the site. Can you fix that? So I'm going to interrupt him with this urgent bulletin. He has file writing capabilities, so hopefully he didn't break his ability itself to get in. That is a possibility, by the way, but not likely. But if for some reason he broke his own ability, we'll find out. I don't think he did, but he, remember, is essentially a plugin. So if he breaks his own, thankfully he didn't. He just broke the output. So I'm going to say, figure out where you broke things or crashed things. I think it was probably when you updated the bundle, but it could be on the page. Either way, reconcile it so that we don't have a problem. So in this case, for example, anytime that you might have had an issue in the past where your site crashes, your client site crashes, imagine how amazing it would be if you've got an interactive partner who can work with this site directly, and you don't have to worry about broken sites anymore, right? So I think he's hallucinating. I'm going to tell him about the plugin because I don't know if he understands that he broke it there or not. But now that I told him, he goes, "You're absolutely right. Let me fix this." Sometimes in teaching, we need to do certain dramatic things. Now, in this case, this actually leads me to think as a developer, maybe I need to put in a safeguard around the stuff that he builds, which is very possible for me to do, so that his stuff only exists like in a sandbox. It has an ultimate kill switch, which I think he already has, because I can see that I can still go to the plugin side of things. But let's say, for example, as you've done in the WordPress space, you broke things so badly you couldn't even get to that. Obviously, we want to make sure that that can't happen. Okay. So he seems to be functioning and he's listing plugins, but let's see. Yeah, he's working. So I want to just remind him. I'm quite sure you can access the code. It sounds like you're just having trouble figuring out what you broke. So just back up the truck to before you change the bundle selector's visibility. on the cart page. I think that's where you went bad. Okay. So yeah, he's got a function in there that's probably wrong. And again, I'm not worried about this because I think today went really well. But one of the things is that if, let's say I had a 13-year-old and he went to the Walgreens and didn't buy the right milk, I'm not going to yell and scream and, say never do that again. I'm going to try to teach him what to do, how to do it. And that's kind of where my role in this comes, is that I'm curating a set of tools that you guys can use that are, let's say, a little more bulletproof from little quirks like this. At the end of the day, I won't keep you guys that long. Let's see if he succeeds in doing this. But I think we got a really good demonstration of how I can talk to the desktop interface. And by the way, he has access to all of my emails. He has my calendar. So for example, I'm not going to do this because I don't want to out my emails with particular customers. I could say, I spoke to John Lawler, who I think I can say because he's here. John said, blah, 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 blah. I could say, Claudio, go find what John Lawler said and make a special solution for John Lawler at a special price so that he has a unique offer different from Ann Stevenson or somebody else. And that's totally within the capability of our marketing now and of our sales capability. This is remarkable because in the past, how could I have ever done that? Now I have a true partner who is running the business for myself or my client and doing things that otherwise would have seemed like a magic trick. He seems to maybe be getting hung up. So I'm going to turn off his one plugin to help him out. I'll turn off the bundle selector. I'm pretty sure that's what broke it. Yeah. Okay. I'll just let him know. I disabled the bundle selector plugin and that was the problem. So that's cool. Let me just show everybody the web page that you designed in the meantime, and that will be good enough for now. So let me just interrupt him. And if he has that page, I'll show you what he can do with that. Because the rest of the stuff is just examples of the same stuff. Okay, and let's see where the page is. What is the URL of the landing page? Could you set that to be the home page of the site, please, since you have the tools to do that? Now, one of the things that's often difficult when you do WordPress sites, you know how you have to go to settings, general, reading. You have to go and say, set the permalinks. You have to go and say, what's the home page and so on and so forth, right? He has the tools to do that. He can list out all the pages, figure out what's what. Okay, got lost in the crash. He's going to create it again. But in other words, what I'm saying is the normal things that drive your clients crazy are they're supposed to know what settings permalinks are. They're supposed to know to go to settings, reading, and then go static page, home page. Like, this is crazy town in 2025. Why would we want to do that? Why wouldn't we want to just have Claudio do that for us, right? That's where I'm going. I'm going to wait till he finishes his one page, then I'm going to wrap it up. I will ask him to do a John Lawler thing. So if you guys want to stick around, I'll do an extra 5 minutes. I am going to go meet somebody for lunch, but let me just show you what that would look like. Because one of the key things about using desktop is notice he's got Gmail. He can search my Gmail. He knows who John Lawler is, like it or not. Okay, now, he set this. Let's see what he did. Let's refresh the page. See, he said it. He did all of the stuff I was just talking about. And there it is. I'm not saying it's perfect or beautiful, but that's not the point. The point is it can be improved upon. That was like done instantly. That was done with live links to the products. You guys understand? Like, I was talking about this a couple of months ago and you're like, what? What are you talking about? One of the things that'll happen when I'm using the Spence style, just to show you, for example, is that like with Cadence under the hood, it would just disable all of this nonsense by default. And that way you would end up with a true landing page, which is really what we ultimately want here, right? We want it to just look and act like a sales page. Now, you can imagine for clients and customers, you can use this so that you can have a single domain that has all these rando URLs that are sales pages, just like Canva does. and you can custom point things to them. But like if you have a client and you want to make endless sales pages with Claude's help and have all the dynamic stuff, you absolutely can do that. And this is really awesome too, because like this allows you to do the multimedia and everything else. Okay, let's do one other thing. Listen, I have a really good client, customer friend of mine, John Lawler, Lawlor. I want you to check my Gmail for John Lawler, and I want you to do two things. Number one, find out a little bit about him after you look him up in my email by researching him on the internet. I think he's maybe retired these days from his primary business, but the point is just find out enough about him. And even if you can grab possibly a URL of his image, and then make a special sales page just for John Lawler, because I know he loves Spencer Diamond. Okay, so I gave him a multi-part task here. The task was go to my Gmail, find out about a person by name, research that person, get some content about that person, come back, make a special offer to John. This is crazy town, folks. And this is like today. We're not talking about hypotheticals. So vibe code away, but this is the kind of stuff that like when this is done, this is going to go into the Fluent CRM. This is going to go into my existing WordPress tool that I've already got 4,500 or so paying customers in, right? So this is why it matters to me, is that for myself or my customers, I can offer something they can start using today, reliably, own and control at a ridiculous cost. This is the base of this is $30 a month, the $97 a month for the full tool set. Hands-on consultative run for you, one-time VIP charge plus a monthly cost that is far less than anything you would pay for doing all of these things through a traditional marketing agency. Now, I'm not kidding myself to think that the marketing agencies aren't going to start doing this, but what I'm saying is we already have the best marketing agency in the world with Claudio. He's better than 1,000 human beings at this stuff. So agencies are going to have to start rethinking what it is they're offering. And in my opinion, what I'm offering to you is I'm your concierge to the technologies that allow you to do more by yourself, whether it's for your own business or for your customers. And I think that's the goal here, is to take the one world that we're in and match it to the new world we're going to, so that you and I, those of us who are over 12 years old, are not sitting around wondering what to do with the rest of our lives. Because to me, as a 59-year-old or 60, 65, I could do this stuff all day long. In fact, I think this is going to be the norm, as it should be. But I can be as good as every kid out there at this stuff. In fact, better, because I understand the real world and I can convert it with these tools into something that I've always dreamed of. Okay. Sorry about this, John, if I outed you a little bit. John, let me know before I scroll your phone number there. But I guess it's on the internet, so maybe it doesn't matter. It found out where you're at. You're known as the fractional AI whisperer and the AI answer guy. So that's pretty good. You're a marketing guy. Okay, I'm going to scroll past your phone number quickly, hopefully. It says that we had a meeting and did Calendly, and it made a sales page. Let's see what it made. Notice the header footer stuff. I'm just going to ignore that. Hey, John, this one's just for you, my friend, because I know you love Spencer Diamond. Now, it didn't put any of the stuff in there specifically about you, but what I could do to make this better is I'm going to say, listen, I love that you know so much about John. So instead of doing this as a sales page, do this as a published page, but make it as if it was an email to John. Make it short and sweet and direct, and reference the things about him that you've learned of from either my emails or the internet, and make it personalized and persuasive. So in other words, like publish it as if it was an HTML5 email. And also don't talk so much about the album. Just mention that in passing. Just say, John, I've got some special deal for you, and write it in my style as Spencer Foreman. Okay. So let's see. First of all, my translating tool for the voice made me Foreman. I would make sure to change that, but let's see what it comes up with, because this is kind of one of the other things I want you guys to think about, is that we're not going to be using tools that are like in my lawyer days. Here's a file room with file cabinet that has file folders that have little folders inside of folders inside, and there's paper. We're not doing that anymore. We're doing conversational knowledge, like a REST API. You say, give me this stuff randomly based upon if this, then that. And I'm saying here, let's make content dynamically, instantly, that matches up with this person based upon things that I think are important to persuade him, right? And let's see what he did. Notice how fast he did that. Now, I'm going to tell him also to get rid of some of this junk. From your AI marketing experience to your appreciation for great music, this album is perfect. Okay, I'm going to tell him, let's knock off this design. I want you to completely rethink the design and make this look like a plain white piece of paper with a shadow background and, let's say, Montserrat font text. Make it like it was a traditional typed letter to John. And again, give some information about him and his business that you know of from the internet, like an old-fashioned letter would have had with, the to and the from and the signature. And you can sign off as cheers, exclamation point, and then the next line, Spence, and make the Spence bold italic. Okay. So what I'm doing is, this is an example for maybe Adrian's benefit as well, this is an example of how aesthetically we have to learn to describe what we want, or we have to make templates. I'm using things like the Spence style, not to make old-fashioned CSS templates, but rather to say, here's a set of style rules, like a style guide that applies to different things. And I've shown you this in my last webinar where I do my HTML emails from 1WDTV. Happy to show you this. I actually build a template generator that automatically sends these out. So like I said, when we look at our old emails, if I look at this one, okay, this template here is just ready to go. I changed the image, I changed the video link, I changed this and that, but like this is ready to go. I don't have to reinvent it. Whereas today I did a new one where I asked it to change it and make it very minimalistic because I was trying to make a point, right? So in this case, it was just like the image and the link. That's what we're saying, is I'm saying you can give it different styles and abilities just by words or from other tools. But once you've done that, you can achieve pretty cool outcomes. Let me ask him, what's the URL? I don't know if I'm on the right page. Somehow or another, he didn't do that one right. So I'm not sure what happened there. I'm going to think maybe it's cached. I think the problem is either the style is cached or something. Can you give it to me fresh on a new page? Like I said, it should look like an old-fashioned letter, white letter with a shadow background on a white page and styled to look like a letter. Can you do that, please? Sometimes when I'm using InstaWP, it's not happy. I don't have a clear the cache button. I suppose I can use my browser clear cache, but I have a feeling it's just a caching issue. So we're going to give him a new URL so that we can see this fresh. And then I'm going to say bye-bye because I'm going to go meet a friend for lunch. Hopefully you guys get this. And what I'm saying to you is to get on board right now, the special offer, if you go to minutelaunch.com, is instead of $300 for the year or anything else, this is fully hosted. Join the club. It's $250. You'll get your Minute Launch AI hosted with all of these things, first time to try them in. It's for a year. And all of the new components, you become part of my club of like beta testing all of this stuff. But if you go with the startup plan too, the full kit, you can get this as well. It just depends on how far you want to go with it. Okay, so he did some things here, but he did some things that are funky and weird, which is okay, which is part of why the Spence style is going to make a difference. I didn't give him all those instructions like the first time, which is normally necessary. And the reason that's necessary is because in this particular case, what he's trying to do here is being broken by the, let me edit this. It's being broken by the way he put it into a classic block. And I'm not going to hold him to, to that. But let me just show you what I do. If I put an HTML block in here and I put that in, and I just wrap this in this case with the style tags, because that's what normally would happen with the Spence style thing. And I would also do this. It would be the same kind of full width nonsense. This is, like I say, with spend style, this is just already set in there automatically. But let's see what we got. Not what I was thinking. So I don't think he did a good job with that, but that's okay. He did write the letter. I just don't think he understood or didn't do a good job with the actual output. If I wanted to spend the time, I would fix this, but I'm not going to. Here's why. I think I had for Spence, a remarkable, let me go Spence solo here. I had a remarkable good luck today with you guys participating in showing off some of these features. Those pages are actually live, even though technically they're not necessarily real sales pages. So for example, WPClaude.com. I'm not sure I'm going to actually use the term WPClaude.com, but it's Minute Launch AI. And this is one of the tools, which is the Claude desktop MCP connector, but that's a ton of words. So WPClaude. And I'm excited. This weekend, those of you who are already members, I'm going to do the following things. I'm going to clear out your install manager, and I'm going to install what things I showed today. Basically the desktop interface, Claude, WPClaude. I'm going to install, again, the latest versions of the media generators, which is for images and video, the AI chat, which is the desktop version, and then a couple other random things. But those 5 things, along with his capability, and the auto mem is something that we'll be discussing in another conversation, but auto mem combined with those things, that in and of itself is probably enough to go with all the things that you can build and do with it. Because one of the concepts is you're not building static solutions anymore. You can, with Claude, create dynamic things that run onesie twosie just by asking him to build it. If you follow my logic, he has all of the ingredients. He has all the appliances. Now he has a box that you or your client own and control. We don't need to buy 40 other plugins anymore. You can still use them, but you don't need to, with the exception of things like WooCommerce. Obviously, that's stupid. We're not going to remake WooCommerce, Launchflow's WP Fusion. But like all those other builder tools, get them out of there. They're just ridiculous, unnecessary. So hopefully this has been enlightening. I really enjoyed sharing. Thanks for the great questions. For the folks who showed up new today, thank you. I'm really excited to service all of you guys and your needs going forward. The new video channel, or I should say the new YouTube, not channel, YouTube playlist is WP Launchify is the channel. And then the playlist is here. It's featured Minute Launch AI. I only did 2 videos this week plus this because I've been so busy with the coding, but I'm going to be trying to do like 1 or 2 videos a week, maybe more, maybe even daily if I can, of the latest tools, the latest stuff. And then to Adrian's point, putting them into the context of how this can apply immediately to your WordPress sites. Love you guys all. Have a great weekend. See you soon.